Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Line of Scrimmage. I am Montana. That is Minx. And we are back again in the rut of the summer. Okay. We got some rankings for you today. Big 12 coming up. Probably the most unpredictable conference we will have all year. Are you excited?
Dude, when I was making this list, I was like, am I cooked? Am I cooked? I'm like, oh, this team has a difficult but also very manageable schedule. And then I realized every single team has pretty much the exact same schedule. Weighing trying to figure out what the balance is of these teams, how they'll perform with the unpredictability of the Big 12 was just so tough to put together.
Yeah. So, as Minx just mentioned, we have separate rankings that we put together to combine to have our overall projected rankings. But this is just where we think these teams are going to end up towards the end of the year based on schedule, based on everything happening, players returning, coaches leaving, all that stuff. We're going to do top 6 of the Big 12. BYU at number 6 in our official Beyond the Line of Scrimmage rankings. Head coach Kalani Sitake, 11-2 last year. Okay, they had a very good shot to make the Big 12 championship. They came up 1 win short. Okay, they might have been in the playoff, but unfortunately left out last year. They are number 6 on our list. Here's why. Jake Retzlaff coming back, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 530 yards on the ground. Okay, mobile quarterback, can do it all. They lose Keelan Marion. They return Chase Roberts, 854 yards, and they return LJ Martin, 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. Okay, so they have some proven players on the offense that they can rely on this year. They bring in the tight end transfer from UCLA, Carson Ryan, Andrew Gentry, O-line from Michigan, and Isaiah Jada, O-line from Colorado. So they got pieces on the line. They got pieces at tight end, wide receiver, running back. Offensively, they should be good. Defense is where it gets a little sketchy, and this is probably why they're at number 6. They lose their entire defensive line to be graduation or to the NFL draft. They did get a big win over the spring portal. Keanu Tanuvasa from Utah. This is a big one in this rivalry. He's going to anchor that D-line. They obviously have a strength at linebacker. Jack Kelly, Isaiah Glasker, returning players. A lot of production there. Okay. The biggest questions for this defense is obviously the rest of that D-line and then the questions at cornerback. You can never have enough good defensive linemen. You can never have enough good cornerback. That is where you need the most depth in this current day and age of college football. Schedule: at Colorado week 5, at Iowa State week 9, at Texas Tech week 11, and at home against TCU in week 12.
Continuity and player retention isn't everything. Returning production, that's not everything. But being used to who you're playing with matters a whole lot. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. Knowing what your guys' tendencies are, knowing how they're gonna play, that matters. And when you're returning 7 new players into that defensive front and getting them all ready within, at most, maybe an 8-month period, it's not easy. It's not easy. You can have a team full of studs on that defense, but everyone's got to be bought into the system. They have to have that mentality. They have to understand each other. That's not something that you can easily do in 8 months. It's possible, but it takes a lot of hard work and dedication from each and every single player to know their role and how to play with each other.
I could see BYU winning the conference. I could also see them, being a ten spot in this conference. Just a loaded, deep conference, which is why it's hard to put either team above the other. But at number 5,
We've got Iowa State at number 5. So when I was doing my research, what I typically try to do is I try to look at the schedule, see who they got. I give it a quick glance at the very least. I'll say, oh, they got this team. Okay. Oh, here's the matchup of the season. I look at their big games. Do they have them at home? Do they have them on the road? Looking at Iowa State, biggest matchup of the season, K-State, is week 1 in Ireland. Week 1, you lose that game. Everyone's forgotten about that by the time of the end of the season. Now, this being a conference game, it definitely has a lot more weight on that. So their biggest game of the season is quite literally in Dublin, Ireland. I mean, week 1 against K-State. Down the stretch, and the other 2 real top-notch games I saw for them were BYU and Arizona State, and they drew both of those teams at home. I'd have to look through to see the rest of their schedule. I'm sure there's another couple quality teams on there, but those were those standouts. The man in charge is Rocco Becht for Matt Campbell, one of the better QBs that he has had during his tenure at Iowa State. He's coming into his junior campaign with over 6,500 yards and 48 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons as the field general down in Ames. That's pretty damn good. And the other big thing is he's losing his 2 biggest stars, Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, both notably into the NFL draft. They had to go to the transfer portal, bring some people in. Who'd they bring in? Xavier Townsend was probably the biggest name they got out of UCF, who did not see much production during his time with the Knights. Going to his senior season now, total 500 yards, 4 touchdowns in 3 seasons here. They also added Chase Sowell from Eastern Carolina, who has had 600 yards in each of the past 2 seasons, and then 4 total touchdowns during his time at East Carolina, transferred into Iowa State. Plug and play, go make that kid a star. And they need to have someone that can do it. They need someone to step up and give Rocco someone to throw to. Otherwise, this team's not going to be all that successful. Another thing with Iowa State, they're very well balanced. 2 big names for running backs. You got Carson Hansen and Abu Sama III. Hansen last year actually had a majority of the carries, having 750 yards, 13 touchdowns on 5 yards a carry, while Sama had about 580, 2 touchdowns and 4.5 yards a carry. Offensive line returns 3 starters. Again, getting that continuity.
I will say about that offensive line before we get to defense, 106 total starts coming back. That experience matters. Rocco Becht having the experience that he does with this O-line matters. Yes, football is a team game, but you can be better depending on how good your quarterback is and the continuity that you guys have in the locker room with each other. Moving on to defense. They returned Caleb Bacon, the linebacker, Cooper Ebel, the linebacker, and they get Will McLaughlin back from injury last year. I remember last year, like the running joke with Iowa State was that they were playing their 6th-string linebackers because they just got hit by that injury bug so hard last year at the linebacker spot. Just insane that they're going to get all these guys back, especially in a prove-it year for Iowa State. They return Dominique Orange at nose tackle, as well as Jontez Williams at cornerback, Jeremiah Cooper, a free safety. And they bring in some much-needed depth at D-line, 4 transfer D-linemen. I really like where the defense is at. I think, honestly, just from my own philosophy, linebackers is kind of the heart of a defense. And bringing 3 guys back that know how to play football and know how to communicate and lead, that's huge for them. Obviously, they're the quarterback of the defense. And as you mentioned with that stretch, BYU week 10, Arizona State week 11. They also have at TCU week 12. Okay, so that's 3 straight games against upper tier of the conference teams. They're going to be trying to get you out of the playoff. We have Iowa State at 5. Honestly, it could be interchangeable. Like I said, Rocco Becht being as good as he is, it elevates this team to another level. And I think expectations resemble that. So Iowa State, number 5. Who do we have at number 4?
Number 4, we've got Texas Tech. This is kind of the new era of college football coming to your face right now. I mean, they've got the billionaire at the helm, giving them that good old money. Like I said, I looked through the schedules first, or at least tried to, and the thing I noticed with this team is it's a damn gauntlet. They go to at Utah. If Utah has any sort of pulse this year, if they perform like their Pac-12 days, that ain't easy. They go at Houston, week 6. They host Kansas. They go to Arizona State. They have Oklahoma State at home. Is Oklahoma State going to have a pulse this year? Is Oklahoma State going to be like they have been in the past? It's surprising. I'm going to say we don't even have Oklahoma State or Utah, Kansas on this list.
Yep.
UCF's not on this. Like that just feels crazy. These teams that have been so prevalent for so long just are an afterthought right now. And those teams, like I said, I don't doubt their ability to resurge. They go to Kansas State, host BYU, and then they get some cupcake games near the end of the season, if you will, and they're not necessarily that. They host UCF and go to West Virginia. Mac Leftwich, one of the top offensive coordinators, one of the most highly prolific passing offenses, coached some high-profile guys like Cam Ward, Jordan McLeod the past few seasons. Bringing a new defensive coordinator, took the guy from Houston who transformed that Houston defense the past few years. Obviously didn't bode too well last year, but that was the lone bright spot of Houston. But it's definitely one of the top defensive coordinator. Both of those guys were nominated for the Bros Award within the past 2 seasons. Big names for this team is going to be starting quarterback, senior Baron Morton, who last year threw for 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 picks. add in a highly prolific offensive coordinator into your system. And then they brought in a transfer running back, Quentin Joyner from USC, who had about 480 yards last year, 7.5 yards per carry for a touchdown. One of the biggest news cycles of the summer, or excuse me, of the winter, I should say, it's Micah Hudson. Says, I'm packing my bags. I'm going to College Station down in A&M. A couple weeks later, realize, hey, this ain't for me. Let me go back where I actually need to be. And that's in Lubbock, Texas. And probably the biggest thing that's really given Texas Tech all the hype going into the season is they had the second best transfer portal class. How well does that pan out? We've seen places like Florida State live and die. Quite literally live, succeed, die, and dwindle without that. They get Colorado center, Cash Cleveland. They get multiple 4-star tackles. Howard Sampson from North Carolina. Will Jados from Miami of Ohio, who's a standout all-conference player there. So they've got real experienced veteran players coming into the offensive line. Again, add that with studs coming in, coming back. On top of that, a brand new offensive coordinator.
Offensively, they should be fine. They just have to find time to mesh together. And I think when I mentioned to you Texas, or you mentioned Texas Tech, as one of your top teams, for me, it's like all these guys coming in, it has to work right away. It can't be a Florida State last year. It can't be a Colorado 2 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, these guys have to find rhythm, cohesion, connection, whatever you want to call it, and they got to find it fast. Okay, because the season's coming up, and Kansas doesn't care how much money you played your players. Kansas State, all these teams, they don't care.
And added benefit, a lot of these players, obviously, like I said, they don't have that cohesion yet. But a lot of them are extremely experienced guys. They didn't just go after guys that were high profile coming out of high school. You look at the O-line guys, pretty much everyone that came in on that O-line that's projected to start was either starting a veteran player or they were all conference, all American type players. Same thing with the D line. Same thing with the defensive back room. They brought in, FCS All Americans or all conference players or guys who just had experience playing at that position compared to just getting in, a high profile guy who's a, good athlete, hasn't seen much playing time. I think that bodes well. But that schedule through the middle of the season for them could shade trouble. I think right now they have probably one of the best coaching staffs in the entire country. I mean, Shieldwood on the defensive side, again, nominated for the Burrows Award the past couple of seasons. Mac Leftwich on the offense was at Texas State before. I mean, this is a team that if it can gel, I mean, not necessarily out of left field, but this could be a team that could dominate. Coming at number 3, we've got the Baylor Bears down in Waco, Texas. Now, this team, again, a lot of the Big 12 teams have just been hype train, hype train, hype train. This is a team. This is a team. And I feel like that's just kind of how this conference is designed, and that's what makes this conference so fun. The guy who's kind of getting a little bit of Heisman buzz around his name is Sawyer Robertson, who led a top 20 offense last season, comes into 2025 with a decently favorable schedule compared to a lot of those in the Big 12. 3,000 yards passing last year, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And mind you, he didn't play in the first 2 games of the season. He came in that third week. And this is probably one of the deadliest 1-2 punches. There's a lot of good 1-2 punch teams in this conference. I will say that as well. Running back Bryson Washington, leading running back from last year, had 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns on the ground. And then they also had Dawson Pendergrass, who had 650 yards and 6 touchdowns as well. They've returned 4 of the 5 starting old linemen coming this year. And this is one of the most prolific offenses that you'll see kind of throughout the country. Now, the big caveat to last season why you didn't see much success out of them was there's a lot of question marks on the defense. Just lost way too many close games, got blown out in a couple, and just couldn't get it done.
Baylor's a pretty straightforward team here in terms of what you like and what you want to see going forward. Like you mentioned, returning 4 of their 5 starting linemen. That's a big deal. Defensively, David Aranda still going to be the play caller. So I think a little bit of a cohesion there for himself, I think would be nice for him. They bring in Calvin Simpson-Hunt from Ohio State, Devin Turner from Northwestern, Amarian Winston from Oregon. So they're just plucking from the Big Ten at this point. All-Conference USA linebacker from FIU, Travion Barnes. They return their starting linebacker Keaton Thomas, who finished with 114 tackles, 7 TFLs, 2.5 sacks, and an interception last year. So this guy can do it all. Defensively, they should take a step forward. And offensively, just based on the production coming back, that should be a reasonable step forward as well. They host Auburn week 1. I think that bodes well for them because I would rather play Auburn week 1 than in week 13, 14. You know what I mean? Just in terms of rhythm, all that stuff. At SMU week 2 could be a sleeper game for them. They got to wake up. In that case, Arizona State week 4, Kansas State week 6, and TCU week 8. So Baylor is number 3 for us.
Number 2, Coach, we've got ourselves Chris Kleiman and the Kansas State Wildcats. Chris Kleiman, I think, is one of the most underrated coaches in all of America. I'm here to give him his flowers. Kansas State's a great program. Not elite, but if they can find success in the Big 12 the next few years, they can definitely find themselves in an elite category. They've won 9 games or more in each of the last 3 seasons, and only blue bloods, such as Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Oregon, have matched that. Last season, drew 9-4, a couple questionable losses. 29 to BYU, lost to Houston by 5, and then they lost to Arizona State by 10 and Iowa State by 8. You can't be losing to Houston. You can't be getting blown out by BYU. You got to be competitive. Again, another dynamic 1-2 punch similar to Baylor. This one might be even better. Star quarterback Avery Johnson, and they get Dylan Edwards back in. Avery Johnson last season had over 2,700 yards as a sophomore, threw a school record of 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and overall that season, I was looking around on message boards, and that looked to be, a lot of people are saying that's about a top 5 season that Kansas State has ever had. And then he also added in, this is probably a big push for him, is 600 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns. This dude's a dual threat, crazy. He's fun to watch. Last year had one of the best rushing attacks in the country, 215 yards per game. That's stellar. Dylan Edwards, one of the top backs in the country that's returning, 7.5 yards per carry, 550 yards, went off in the bowl game. Dylan Edwards is poised. He's got the hype. He's ready for it. They also bring in a stud running back in Antonio Martin Jr. for kind of a variety with the carries. I mean, he had over 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 yards per carry as a freshman down the SCS level. They're bringing a stud, Caleb Medford from New Mexico, has over 800 yards during his few seasons at New Mexico. The biggest question mark for this team, though, is going to be the offensive line. It looks like they lost several veteran starters last year. They've had to go to the transfer portal, coming into Big Ten country, getting guys from Penn State, Ohio State.
I will mention this about the offense. All 4 tight ends that caught a touchdown last year are back. Keep all 4 tight ends who have film, keep them from entering the portal. That's impressive stuff. Like you mentioned with their O-line, obviously not very many snaps together. And I think that might be the biggest concern. But I'm also here to mention why we have Kansas State at number 2. They have one of the best D-lines in the Big 12, if not the country. They have at least 6 or 7 guys who could start elsewhere in the conference on any given day. One name to watch, Tony Asunami. He's going to rack up sacks this year. Just keep him on your board. Okay, he's going to go to the NFL draft. He's going to be a high draft pick. Austin Romaine, one of the best linebackers in the Big 12. BJ Payne, potential all-Big 12 safety. Where this gets a little dicey is that the rest of the back 4, aside from, I guess the rest of the back 3, aside from BJ Payne, are unproven. You have your O-line, not a lot of snaps together, and you have your back 4, not a lot of snaps together. Aside from that, we project Kansas State to be a top 2 team in this conference. Avery Johnson, stud quarterback, obviously sophomore last year. Experience matters. Dylan Edwards, stud in the pass game as well. Tight ends, obviously that matters. D-line matters a heck of a lot, especially in a conference that we think of the majority of the time that they're doing more passing than running in the Big 12. Obviously, they got Iowa State week 0 in Dublin. A sneaky little game. They got Army in week 2. Okay, that's a sneaky game. They got at Baylor in week 6, TCU week 7, at Kansas week 9, and at home versus Texas Tech week 10. Okay, so that schedule, it's a little dicey. I think it favors them a little bit more than a TCU, BYU. I just think I like this team more. The production coming back. The coach, obviously Chris Kleiman, a hell of a coach. They were 9-4 last year. I could easily see 9, 10, 11 wins this year. But as we know, last year, Kansas State could be bottom of the conference, and the number 16 team could be number 1. So, honestly, who knows? But Kansas State is our number 2 in the BT LoS rankings for the Big 12. Moving on to the absolutely surprising, not surprising at all, number 1, Arizona State Sun Devils. Okay. Kenny Dillingham, 11-3 last year, returning both coordinators. Minx, what do we got on Arizona State this year?
Kenny Dillingham, man, absolute guy. I was reading through a lot of the local papers, and that's what I like to read through. When I look at something, I don't go to the national guys who are saying this or just like the bigger known guys. I like to go to the smaller beat writers and just random news outlets that have some pieces on these guys, and they're in love with the energy and enthusiasm that he brings to this program. They're very involved in the community, and it's really just helped lift this Sun Devil team that was in the absolute college football gutters a couple years ago after Herm Edwards was fired. Everything fell apart. The Jane Rashada situation, all of that. Kenny Dillingham just instantly just boom makes it all happen, makes it work. Sam Levitt, who was probably the second biggest name out of that team last year, well, guess what? Now he's got Heisman buzz around him. He's projected to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country for the 2025 season. And like I said, when I was reading through those reports, I saw word that a lot of people are saying that he's bulked up in the offseason. Like Sam Levitt, I felt like he was a pretty solid size before, but he's really bulked up this offseason to really help out with his dual threat ability because of one of the pieces that they're losing. Now, Sam Levitt had almost just under 2,900 yards last year, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And like I said, that dual threat ability, he had 443 yards on the ground, 6 touchdowns as well. Biggest piece of news is you got to replace one of the most legendary performers that we've seen the past couple years, Cam Scattaboo, who is going to be insanely tough to replace. And honestly, what I've seen is they don't want to replace it. They don't want to try to be that. They want to mold themselves into a new piece of success. They have a couple guys they had already there, but I saw one of the bigger names I saw there was Kanye Udo from Army, who's a transfer at over 1,100 yards, 6.2 yards per carry. There's a couple guys. There's a position battle going on right now between a couple guys there, but Kanye Udo seemed to be one of the leaders there, but it could be kind of a running back by committee. They want to have multiple different approaches to the run game, it looks like, but we'll see what ends up happening. I also expect Sam Levitt to kind of take a jump with that dual threat numbers, allow himself to take some more hits, be more of the focal point of the offense without having Cam Scattaboo there. So it could be Sam Levitt, which could really help bolster his Heisman hopefuls. Big thing I noted on this team was that 16 starters are returning from last year's squad, and 9 of those are on the defensive side of the ball. 9 of 11 players on the defensive side of the ball are coming back. Most of the old line's coming back, bringing in veteran experience. Jalen Moss from Fresno State at over 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons at Fresno State. And then they also brought in transfer from Alabama, Jaron Hamilton, who's expected to have a bigger role this season.
All right, you mentioned 16 total starters coming back. Okay, so if 9 are on defense, that puts us at 7 on offense. 4 starting linemen coming back. Okay, cohesion, knowing your schemes, your blocking schemes, all that matters. Like
And
we
then
talk about all the
also
time.
a thing to note, you lose a huge weapon, but you bring in 2 pretty high level performers. They have multiple different facets of the run game with the running backs they have. They have a couple power guys. You also added another playmaker for Sam Levitt in Jalen Moss from Fresno State. I mean, I think that's huge in terms of replacing a huge piece like Cam Scattaboo. You got to bring in a couple other guys to help mix that balance because you're not going to have someone that
Yep.
can just directly replicate what he did.
Yep.
But I think what they brought in is going to really help spread that out.
And a name that you might not be familiar with, but they call him Turbo. Jaron Hamilton from Alabama. Okay. Sneaky name. They call him Turbo Hamilton. Okay. If you got a name like that, you might
You
as
got
well
some
just go to
aura.
the NFL draft.
You got some aura to you, bro. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that big things and big play.
The schedule, I think, favors Arizona State a lot. At Mississippi State, week 2. I mean, we assume Mississippi State's not going to be that good this year. Maybe better than last year, but still not good enough. They got a stretch of at Baylor versus TCU, at Utah versus Texas Tech versus Houston, at Iowa State. All of these teams have that stretch of just like boom, 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 boom.
And you're like, "Oh, if something falls off, this could really go off
Yes,
the rails." Or,
exactly.
I
If,
mean,
if
you
you
could
get an
lose 1 or
injury
2. Mhm,
in one spot, you might as well wrap it up.
mhm. That's what I
So,
noticed a lot with a lot of these teams is like, "Oh, hey, like, you start dropping a couple here, you're out of the playoff, you're out of the conference championship."
yep,
I mean, this could just shape up to be an incredible fun conference to watch, compared to,
yep.
Big Ten, you got a couple teams in the mix. SEC, there's really a couple teams in the mix. ACC, same damn thing. The other power conferences, y'all kind of just pencil in like, hey, one of these like 3 or 4 teams is for sure going to be there.
Our projected rankings officially for Beyond the Line of Scrimmage, we have Arizona State number 1, Kansas State number 2, Baylor number 3, Texas Tech number 4, Iowa State number 5, and BYU number 6. A lot of honorable mentions we could have named. It'd be too long of a video, to be honest, if we could name every single team in this conference. Every single team in this conference has somewhat of a chance to get into this top 6.
I love the Big 12, man. This is probably my favorite
Yeah.
conference. This is my favorite conference to cover throughout the season. I don't care about all these different star players, this and that. Big Ten, SEC. I don't care about that. I want to have fun, and this is just every team you look at, you're gonna find something fun from that team. This is one of the few conferences where everyone is so optimistic. Obviously, everyone goes into each and every season optimistic for the most part. For the most part, some people this is their true seasonal depression. I feel like most people are just, especially in the Big 12, everyone's just like, "Hey, we got a good team this year. We're kind of peaking right now. Like this could be the time that we get this done." So
Yep.
I'm super excited for this conference.
Yeah, I am too, and we hope you guys are as well. Okay. We will keep rattling off these conferences. Obviously, it's only June 12th for us. We still got a couple more conferences. We might do like a best of the G5. I don't know if we're going to do all of the G5, G6, whatever it is nowadays. Um, but for now, that is our Big 12 rankings. We hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share videos everywhere. Share them with a friend, with a parent, whatever you got to do. We will see you guys in the next one. Deuces.